So when people get back into blading and they contact me, they usually say, I am having a hard time finding skates. What skates would you recommend? And most of the time, they'll tell me what skates they had in the past. You know, maybe they had some K2 fatties, or maybe they had boxcars or Majestic 12s, or maybe they had some recreational skates, some K2s that they can't remember the model name, but they'll send me a picture. They looked kind of like this, something like that. Typically, I'll ask, what do you have in mind now? Are you planning on skating with your friends, with your family, with your kids? Or are you planning on doing aggressive or slalom, or do you want to skate fast by yourself, fast on trails, like is this a fitness sort of thing? There are all sorts of skates out there for whatever style of skating you want. The most important thing though is finding the skates that fit your feet. You can do 90% of any discipline with any sort of skate setup. It doesn't have to be a specific aggressive skate or a specific urban skate or slalom skate. If you find the skates that fit your feet, I think you're going to have a really great time. And I usually ask people, well, you know, are there any skates out there that you like? Have you seen any pictures of skates that, you know, interest you? And then I ask them, well, what size are you? And they usually say their shoe size. So they'll say, oh, I'm a size 11. And I say, well, what does that mean? You know, I also am a size 10 and a half, but in Nikes, I'm wearing Nikes right now. So in these Nikes, I am I don't know where the sizing is. I am an 11 and a half. So that doesn't help me, because if I got a size 11 and a half skate, if I went off of my shoe size, if I got an 11 and a half skate, my foot would be swimming in there. So rather than using your shoe size, I always ask people to get a ruler. Super easy. Get yourself a ruler that has inches and centimeters. You don't necessarily need inches. It's really easy to find inches. Get yourself a ruler that has centimeters. Now, a 12-inch ruler, which is usually what you can find, goes up to 35 centimeters. If your foot is longer than 12 inches, 35 centimeters, it's going to be difficult to find skates for you. They're pretty, that's a pretty big foot. There are definitely skates out there. Find a yardstick, I guess, the meter stick that has plenty of centimeters past 30. Usually when you get above 29, 30, it starts to be difficult to find skates. But for most of us who don't have a foot that's bigger than 30 centimeters, go out and get yourself a ruler, step on it, put this against the wall, put your heel against the wall, step on it, and see where your biggest toe goes to. Check both of your feet and check the biggest toe to see how long your feet is. For me, my biggest toe is 28.5 centimeters. My smallest foot, I think my left foot is a little bit smaller. It's like 28.2 centimeters. Go with your biggest foot, because they won't sell you a skate that has, a size 28.5 on one and a 28.2 on the other. But go with your biggest foot and find yourself a skate that has Mondo measurements. Mondo is a conversion from centimeters, I think it actually is in millimeters, but in metric to what a traditional shoe size is. So there's the European sizing, there's the UK sizing, and there's the US sizing. So for me, I'm a size 10 and a half in US. I would be a 9 and a half in the UK. I think it goes up. Does it go up? I think it goes up. Oh, this one doesn't help me. In UK, it goes down. So I'm a 10 and a half in the US, a 9 and a half in the UK, and a 44 in the EU. So 44 is what you would find for most skates. You could go with a 44, but getting that initial conversion, you gotta go off of centimeters. Centimeters will give you the distance from the back of the skate to the front of the skate inside the liner. so that your foot fits comfortably. And always use centimeters. If your skates don't come with a sizing chart in centimeters, ask the shop that you're getting them from what the size of the skate is in centimeters. You can find sizing charts that convert from Mondo to EU sizing to the US sizing, but really you should go off of the skates and see what the skates recommend for your foot in centimeter. After you get yourself a skate that you like, you know your size, find yourself a skate that you think will do well for you. I always recommend that people don't spend a ton of money on skates. Skates they have a really nice resale value, but they are mostly plastic. They are designed to get beat up. And if you're getting back into it and you don't know necessarily what skates you want and what sort of skating you like to do, don't spend a ton of money on it. There's no reason to. You're going to have a great time with a $200 pair of skates as much as you're going to have with a $500 pair of skates. You're probably not going to be able to tell the difference if you're just getting started. If you know what you're doing, this video isn't for you. If you already know that you need power slide tows with carbon fiber, or if you need some Bont speed skates or something, this is not the video for you. You already know what you need. You already know your sizing. If you're willing to spend $400 or $500 on a pair of skates, you probably already know all this stuff. But for people who want to get the most performance out of their skates, couple tips. So first of all, most skates are a plastic shell. So here's a good example. Oh, let's find something that works well. Oh, this is a good one. So this is a Rossi's Majestic 12 skate. This is their classic shell. Rossi's is one of the bigger skate companies. They're based in Italy. They were the original manufacturer for the rollerblade shell that looked like this. Rossi's makes a variety of skates. This is their aggressive skate. This was a former brand called Valo. But Rossi's makes tons of different skates out there. You can mostly find them in Europe. You can find some of them in the US. And if you're ordering online, Rossi's is a very quality brand. You know that you buy a Rossi's skate. It might not be the perfect skate for you, but you're going to get a quality skate experience. So with a Rossi's skate, this is a plastic shell boot. The way that's constructed is this plastic shell is the base area, kind of like the shoe area. It'll have a cuff. Typically this cuff has a bolt on the side. Either it is screwed on or riveted on. In the case of Rossi's, they're always riveted on, but a lot of them have a little screw so that you can replace the cuff. If you want to customize, or if you want something a little flexier or a different color, or if your cuff breaks for some reason. And then you've got the bottom, and this bottom could be anything. It could be a bunch of different mounting styles. This is an aggressive setup, but Rossi's sells recreational skates as well using this boot. They don't have this area for grinding. They'll just have a chassis that they rivet to the bottom of the skate so that you can have a nice set of wheels under your feet. Now inside, you open up the buckle. Inside most plastic shell boots, all plastic shell boots, you'll find a liner. This liner is usually where the sizing comes into play. Most plastic shell boots actually span 2 to 3 sizes of feet. So this shell fits a 43, 44 foot. Actually, it might even go down to 42 and a half. This shell is interesting because they use a bunch of different liners to fill out this shell. But this shell, say this shell fits the 43, 44 skate, which is probably around 27.8 centimeters to 28.5 centimeters. Now the inside, because you're putting this liner in here, the inside of this shell is bigger than 28.5. It needs to be, because if your foot is going to fit into this liner, your foot needs to be, your 28.5 centimeter foot needs to fit into the liner, and then the liner also needs to fit into this shell. That means that depending on which liner you get, you might have more or less room inside this shell. So with my foot, I have a 28.5 centimeter foot. This liner is 28.5 centimeters. So when I put my foot in, my foot goes all the way to the end here. It fits perfectly in this shell because this shell is designed for this liner. and I get a really nice, comfortable ride with no wiggle. Now, what would happen if you were using this shell, but you had a size 43 foot? Well, sometimes the liner is smaller, so it would be a size 27-2 liner or something like that. They would put a smaller liner in the same shell, and that means that you would have a little bit of movement inside the shell because the liner doesn't fill the shell perfectly. In situations like that, you can get yourself a different liner. So they sell aftermarket liners to fit into shells. So a few examples. This is a Rosie's RL1 liner. This is a aftermarket liner that Rosie's makes. This is actually designed for higher performance. So this is probably the same thickness and the same sizing as this liner. Very, very close. Very similar size to this liner. But this one is designed more for performance. You can see, just by looking at it, you can see the polish in this construction, the materials that they use. Whereas this one, and I love Rosie's liners, nothing against Rosie's, but this is a stock liner. This is the sort of liner that would come in a $200 pair of skates. This is a $180 liner. Obviously, they're not going to put a $180 liner in a $200 pair of skates because they wouldn't have any money to make. So this liner is much less expensive than the performance liners, but it might be enough for you. You can find different liners from different manufacturers that will have a different fit to fill out the shell so that your feet fit better inside. There are skinny liners, there are fat liners, there are longer liners, there are wider liners. All sorts of liners are available. You can read the descriptions on the website. You can call a skate shop and ask them. Just keep in mind, centimeters is the standard. So if you're getting yourself skates, if you want to communicate with a shop, or if you want to do a search and feel comfortable going online and ordering skates, always measure your feet in centimeters. That will be the key so that you can unlock the sizing for all of these manufacturers. So this Rosie's is actually one of the skinnier skates out there. If you look at the width, most skates are designed around a D width foot. D is kind of the standard width of feet. I don't know what the measurement is. It obviously changes from length of your foot. But a D width is pretty standard. These are actually pretty narrow. So if you get a skate that is the right length, but it's a little narrow, you might be out of luck. They don't make a lot of liners that aren't narrow. It's usually the same amount of padding around the edges as it is in the front. The cuffs and the heels will have a lot of padding, but I've never seen a liner that has no padding out here. Typically with the Majestic 12, for example, what people will do is they will upsize. So they'll get instead of getting this 43-44 shell, they'll get a 45-46 shell. So they get the size 11 to 12 skate in the US, which I think fits 28.7 to 29.5. I think that's the break. So they'll get something like that, which means that this will get a little longer and this will get a little wider. And that means you need to get a bigger liner. So if you had this liner in here and it fits perfectly, great. If you had this liner in a bigger shell, it would move around a little bit. So instead, you need to get a fatter liner. And there are great fat liners out there. So Powerslide in the MyFit brand makes a liner called the Fat Boy. And it is exactly that. These are probably $70 liners. They're not super expensive. But these are designed to fill out a skate. If you compare this liner with the stock liner that comes in the Rosie's, you can see it's wider. You can see it's thicker. I mean, even the name, it's a Fat Boy. It's fat. It's designed for fattening up your foot. And if you use a skate like if you use a liner like this in a bigger skate, it will give you more room, more liner inside that shell so that your foot fits that skate much better. It fills out that skate shell. There's a few other big liners. There's crown liners, there's second skin liners. If you need to upsize or downsize, depends on which way you need to go. Some people like to get the smallest shell that they can, and then they put the skinniest liner in so they get really good performance. One of these RL1 liners would work really well for that. There's a company called Intuition that makes a really good liner that's super thin but super responsive. So people can get instead of getting the 43-44, maybe they get the 41-42. And they put the Intuition in there. So they can fit their foot in there as little padding as possible, but it still gives them the performance that they need so their foot can fit nice and clean inside there. This is where contacting a skate shop really helps. And it's very difficult right now because there aren't a lot of skate shops out there. But if you find a website that has some skates, not Amazon, but if you go to Inline Warehouse, Roller Warehouse, Loco Skates, Seba Ramp, you name it, Sena Ramp, you name it. There's a ton of great skate shops out there. Just do a Google search for Rosie's and you'll probably find a bunch of people who carry the Rosie's brand. And this isn't paid by Rosie's, by the way, but I'm a big supporter of Rosie's quality, and you really can't go wrong if your foot fits their skates. But you can get those shops and they probably have great descriptions in all of their product listings that tell you how wide the skates are, the distances in centimeters. Some of them even have distance width and all of the different areas in centimeters, so you can really tune in how big the skate is so that it'll fit your foot properly.